Good morning. It's been a good morning. It's already a good day. It's going to be an increasingly good day. We're going to have a long, really good day today, aren't we? Yeah. We're going to throw a party. While we think about throwing a party, I want to have some fun today right here. So in order to do that, I need a volunteer. I need somebody to come join me on stage. See, I've done this. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Give her a hand. You guys are scared of me now because I've like done things to you up here.
That's why they didn't want to come.
That's why they didn't want to come? I know. They don't trust me anymore. You want to tell everybody your name?
My name is Dana.
Everybody say hi, Dana.
Hi. I'm Denise's cousin.
Well, we'll forgive you. All right, Dana. I've got something for you. Because you came up on stage, you get a gift. Look at that. Tell them what it is. In case they're blind, they can't see it.
It's a fake 20.
It's not fake, I promise. I went to the ATM right before church. But there is a game we're going to play with that. Okay? What's this? String. Okay, so we're going to play a game called Strings or No Strings. Okay? You look at me really scared. I don't understand. Okay, so here we go. The string will be in one of my hands, either my left or my right. You decide which one it is.
Your left.
I'm not done yet.
I'm psychic. Now you're going to put it in the right hand because I said left.
Maybe, but would I not? Which hand?
Left.
String.
I told you I'm psychic.
Okay, so here's the thing. That 20 is yours. It's yours. But, we are throwing a party tonight.
You can go.
Well, I'm going to let you decide, but it would be really nice. No, it's yours. I'm not touching the 20 again.
I'll go give it to somebody else.
No, it's yours. I'm not asking you to give it away, but it would be really nice if, you came tonight.
Oh, I'm coming. I have two kids that are coming.
Okay.
I've already made plans.
Okay. Well, do you have a costume?
So you want me to wear a costume?
Well, you could use that 20 to help you. You could use that 20 to help you with that.
I have my Bucky's costume on.
Okay. Well, maybe add some frill to it, with the 20. Or how about candy or
Okay.
maybe some decorations that could help? Anything you want to do with that 20 is fine. It's yours, but that would be helpful.
Got you.
It would also,
I'm gonna bring some cupcakes.
we start at 6:00.
I'm going to be here at 5:30.
Okay, that would be great. It would be even better if you came at 5:15.
How about 5?
Okay. And when we're done at 8.
I told her to give me a shirt, and she said no.
Well, maybe we need more volunteer from you in order to get a shirt.
I told her I would help, and she said, "Who's going to watch your kids?" I said, "My mom," and she said, "No."
Okay.
I tried. I really did.
Well, like I said,
I'll try more. I promise.
no heavy. What? It's all up to you. But anything you can do would be great.
Okay. Got
Y'all give her a hand. You guys ever get a gift, and when you get into that gift, you actually realize that it's come with expectations? There are conditions on this gift. There's guilt that's attached to it. And the gift becomes a weight and a burden And you end up feeling like, I wish they never gave this to me at all. Can I give it back, please? Do you see her do that? She like tried to, she's trying to give it back to me. No strings. What would it look like for us to live with no strings in our world, especially with disconnected people? Our mission, our mandate, our non-negotiable directive of how we're going to live life together, how we do live life together, is that we're walking with disconnected people and transforming community as we become like Jesus. That walking with disconnected people piece, right? How do we do that without strings, specifically, without expectation or conditions on them? You know, unfortunately, too many of us who are Jesus followers function with the world that way. All of us, I can function with the world that way. And it sounds like this. I want to walk with you, and I'm all in walking with you, but you really kind of need to begin thinking and acting like me in order for us to spend some time together. I want to tell you that's not the invitation for our life with a disconnected and hurting and broken world. We have a hope and a desire for them that's better than what they have. But it looks different than this. We live in a culture that has adopted a cancel culture mentality. Right? Like, all you got to do is turn on the news and people are blowing people up and ruining their lives because of things that they're discovering about them. And it is not just our larger culture and politics. Like, this happens deeply, unfortunately, with the people of God. You know, when somebody has a moral failure, they can be cast out and they're done. Like, we're not going to be around them anymore. We're done. It happens often with Jesus followers in our current culture when a business makes policy decisions or moral, ethical decisions that don't represent the heart and nature of God. Therefore, it's that business is boycotted. Like, we're not going to give our money to that. We're not going to associate there. And the rationale is this. The rationale is, well, we have to be salt and light in the world. Like, it's a dark world. We have to be light there. It's Matthew chapter 5. Jesus saying, you're the salt of the earth. If salt loses its saltiness, how could it ever be made salty again? And so the church looks at brokenness and says, we can have nothing to do with that. And it's a boycott mentality. I want to tell you this morning that salt and light, us being salt and light, is not an us versus them scenario. It is an us with them proposition. Paul, in a letter to the Corinthian church, what we call 1 Corinthians chapter 5, said it this way. He said in verse 9 and 10 of chapter 5, he said, I wrote to you in my letter not to associate with sexually immoral people. Not at all meaning the people of this world who are immoral or greedy and swindlers and idolaters. In that case, you would have to leave the world. You hear what he says? I wrote to you not to associate with those people, but I'm not talking about those people. If you were going to live a life of not associating with the hurting and the broken, the immoral in this world, you would have to exit the world, and that is not what we are called to do. Here's the big operating premise and understanding of how we walk with disconnected people. Please listen, and if you want to, write it down or go back on YouTube this week and write it down after you watch it again, because you need to remember this. As followers of Jesus, we expect an unbelieving world to act like unbelievers. You got it. You only need to hear it once, Janita. Well, you're going to hear it more than once today. We expect an unbelieving world to act like unbelievers. Let me show you what I mean. We are not surprised when policies are made that do not reflect our God. We're not surprised. And therefore, we don't respond with visceral anger. We're not surprised. We expect an unbelieving world to act like unbelievers. It's who they are. It's where we've come from. Another example. We expect an unbelieving world to function in morality in a way that rejects the character of God. The things that come out of their mouths, not just COVID breath, we expect it. The way they conduct their lives, the choices they make, we're not shocked by it. Paul said in order to be removed from this stuff, you'd have to leave the world. Well, quite honestly, that has always been an option for Jesus followers. In the 400s AD, there's a guy named Simon the Stylite. He was called that because of what he did. This man looked around the world and engaged with other Jesus followers and said, there's too much of the world in this around me. I can't do it. They're invading in my life and in my choices. They're disturbing my prayer life and my time with God. I ain't doing that with them. And so quite literally, he left the world. He went and created a platform on a pillar that was left over from some ruins of a deserted city. The pillar was 10 feet tall. He created a platform on that is about half the size of this teaching platform, and he lived on it, away from the world. There were young men who lived close to him who would come and visit him and give him food. At first, they would climb the pole and hand him food to keep him alive. Over time, word got out that he was up there, and so guess what happens? The world comes to see him, right? Like the world that he's trying to escape is like, hey, there's a weirdo that's sitting on a pole. And they want to come see him. Also, there are Jesus followers who are saying, hey, he must be a wise sage. He gets this. Like he's sacrificing his life in a way that I need to go listen to him. And so they would go see him. He's trying to leave the world, and he's become more popular, and the world is coming to him. So guess what he does? He finds a pillar that's 50 feet off the ground, builds a platform up there, and they have a bucket that he'll lower down for food and I guess to get rid of other things. And he lives up there for 37 years. This is not the way of Jesus. Now, I don't want to push too far because there are some noble and good things about his heart and what he was wanting, okay? But this is not what Jesus prayed for us to be and to become. In fact, the night before Jesus was arrested, in John chapter 17, he is praying first for himself and then for his disciples and then for us. And he turns in John chapter 17 and he prays this. He prays to his Father. He says, they're not of this world any more than I am. And I'm not asking you, Father, to take them out of the world. I'm asking you to protect them while they're in it from the evil one. And he says, Father, as you have sent me into the world, I am sending them into the world. You hear it? Like if we're going to follow him, we have received his same mission. And he, just as he was sent into the brokenness of the world, he is sending us with his presence, with his spirit, with his covering and protection and empowerment into the world in the same way. And then he adds another word to it. He says, for them I sanctified myself, that they too may be sanctified. That's a big church word. All it means is that set apart for the work of God. Right? So here's the dichotomy. Here's this tension and the struggle. Jesus is sending us into the world and empowering us to be set apart from the world. What does that look like? Like how do we live in both places? I think a helpful piece of the conversation here is to go back to 1 Corinthians chapter 5 when Paul is talking to the church. You see, when he turned to the church and he said, you would have to leave the world to not associate with immoral people of the world, right? What he's addressing is immorality in the church. You see, chapter 5 starts by telling us that there's a man who's sleeping with his father's wife. Like he's taking her as his own. I'm assuming it's a stepmom. And the church, because of the grace of God, they're like, we're good. And they're accepting of it. And Paul's like, huh? And that's why he says, when I wrote to you earlier to not associate with someone who is sexually immoral, I didn't at all mean the people of the world. I meant among the family. The people of God ought to look like the character and nature of God. And absolutely, without question, as we deal with the tension, I have a problem. I love coffee. As we deal with the tension of being sent and set apart, there are absolutely two different expectations that we function in. And let me give them to you. The first one, Janita, we expect an unbelieving world to act like unbelievers. The second one is we expect Jesus followers to act like Jesus. Like that's where we live. First, applying it to ourselves, like getting the speck out of our own eye before we help our brother with the plank in his, right? And when we deal with that plank in our brother's eye, it's not in condemnation, it is in solidarity saying, hey, life is better over here. Let's do this. Let's live like Jesus because there's freedom and there's life here. That's how we live sent and set apart. Another way to say it is, we live with them. With them. Not against them. But as we live with them, we are not of them. We go to their houses. We go to their parties. We're involved in their lives. Sometimes we make choices that are different than what they will make. And salt and light erupts. One of the ways that Paul says it in his letter to the Corinthians in chapter 10, he creates this scenario. So they're in a unbelieving culture that's offering sacrifices to pagan gods, right? And in the marketplace, when you buy food, that food often had been sacrificed to a pagan god, and followers of Jesus and Jews struggled with how do we deal with that? We can't function here. And Paul's like, you're free, and you're not worshiping that God. You're free. Live a charactered life. And so he gives this scenario. He says, if an unbeliever invites you into their house and offers you food, eat without reservation. Because you're free. Like, go to their house and be free. But if someone looks at you and says, hey, that was offered to an idol and you're eating it, then don't eat it. Not for your conscience, but for the person who's offended. So here's the takeaway for us in that. We go to them. We live with them. So much so that it doesn't look like an us versus them. It is us. But in doing so, we live charactered lives. We don't sacrifice our identity or our integrity as we are living among them. We don't join in things that do not look and act and sound like God. There are times when we are with them that we just need to look them in the eye, smile, give them a hug, and say, hey, you guys, we'll see you tomorrow. And you leave. And then tomorrow you show back up without condemnation and you lovingly engage again. You live charactered lives that look like Jesus while being consistently present. The second piece to this is if you are willing to go down that road, which in fact is the road that Jesus has called you to, you will experience what Jesus experienced. See, Jesus was ridiculed and challenged by the religious. Going down this road in this kind of relationship with people who do not know our God will cause you to risk your reputation with some. Jesus was called a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of sinners. And therefore, he was, just the assumption was that's who he was as well. Jesus' response to that accusation in Matthew chapter 11, verse 19 is, "But wisdom is proved right by her deeds." You may think whatever you want to think, but I am living a charactered life that looks and reflects the wisdom, the character, and the heart and the nature of God. And that will come out in the wash. Let me give it to you again, in case you missed it. We expect unbelieving people to act like unbelievers. And as we function in the world like that, we are both sent and set apart. We do that by living charactered lives while being consistently present with those who do not act and think like us. And the kingdom of God will grow.